and welcome back to Queerly Natural. I'm Alana.
And I'm Sage. Here at Queerly Natural, we have research-based discussions about sexuality, sex, and gender in nature.
Join us monthly for an episode about a different plant, animal, fungus, or microbe, and learn with us about their lives and how it relates to queer identities in humans.
In a world that tells humans that being queer is wrong, abnormal, and sets us apart from the other life on this planet, we are here to show you the opposite is true.
Based on what nature shows us, being queer is clearly natural. Hi everyone! Welcome to this week's episode of Queerly Natural, or I guess month. We're so excited to be back after break.
Yes.
I get to lead this week and teach you about some lizards. I'm Alana.
And I'm Sage.
And let's get going. Okay, so Sage, this week I looked up and researched the Side-Blotched lizard.
Ooh.
Also known as Uta stansburiana. Definitely how it's pronounced.
I love lizards. Can I just say, I love lizards, you know?
Lizards are great.
As much as Oprah loves bread, I love lizards. And I just want to be a lizard just laying out in the sun.
You should get a pet lizard.
Right? Shiloh, my partner, used to have a pet lizard, but my father-in-law fell in love with him so hard that he now lives full-time with my father-in-law. So I almost had a lizard son, but
Almost.
they are star-crossed. They were meant to be, so I can't separate them. But
Gotcha. Yeah. So this lizard is in the subfamily Guania. It's considered a guandid lizard, and there are 7 subspecies.
Are iguanas also guanias?
I think so. I was trying to look it up, and I believe yes.
I was just curious.
But they're not that closely related. Yeah.
Okay.
So there are 7 subspecies, mostly divided up by, where they live. And so there's the elegans, the nevadensis, the stansburiana, and uniformis, and much more. There's also the eastern and southern. No northern or western, but Oh, sorry, there is a northern. It's just not part of their scientific name. Same with eastern.
Interesting.
So before we get too much into the details of this lizard, I do want to talk about the name and how it came to be. And it's not the most happy story. It's fine for the lizards, but...
The scientific name?
Yeah, the scientific name. So this lizard, Uta stansburiana, was named after Howard Stansbury, who was an explorer with the Army Corps of Engineers and led an expedition to study the flora and fauna of Utah, as it is now, and collected the type specimen of this lizard. However, as much as he was an influential naturalist, he was not a good person.
Are they ever?
He was involved with the massacre of the Timpanogos Native Americans. I'm sorry for mispronouncing that. Also known as the Mormon Massacre. Now, he wasn't in it directly, but the day before it was declared by the governor, he was meeting with the governor and supported it because they were stealing cattle, apparently, that had gone way far away.
Is it the Mormon Massacre because the Mormons did it?
I think it was a Mormon group, yeah.
But
I forget. I looked this up quite a while ago. But
gross.
Basically, they killed a bunch of the Native Americans.
Hey, this is Editing Sage. I just wanted to clarify here that I am not commenting on anyone's religion. I am rather commenting about the actions of the specific group of people. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the episode.
But
gross.
Basically, they killed a bunch of the Native Americans, about, I don't even know exactly how many, but a lot of them ran. The militia spent 5 days chasing them down. Before this all happened, they were friendly with the Timpanogos. They actually worked together to fight a common enemy previously. And so many of them had been staying at a local fort where the militia pretended to be friendly and then came in and executed over 100 of them and enslaved the women and children.
Oh my God. That is terrible.
Yeah, so while he was not actively killing them, he did support this decision because of a few cows. Yeah. Apparently the governor wasn't going to do it, but a lot of people were for it, and then he was like, yeah, do it.
Oh my God.
There's not a huge amount of info. It's easy to find on this because if you look the dude up, it's just how cool of a naturalist he was.
Wow. So they don't even go into this?
No, I found one source and that's how I figured out to look this up, which just led directly to another source, and those were the only ones I found. And then I looked up the massacre specifically, and he's not mentioned.
It's one thing to celebrate his quote-unquote accomplishments, but to do that without also mentioning this terrible atrocity he committed is, like, so unethical. Anyway, just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah. Well, it goes more. But first, besides that lizard, he also has an island, a bay, and a mountain range named after him.
Oh my gosh.
That's just a lot.
That's too much.
But one of the other terrible things related to that massacre is he had 50 heads of the Native Americans removed for examination because he wanted them for future scientific study. Some of these heads went to him, and the rest were put in front of the fort.
Oh my god.
Where the natives sought shelter. Yeah, so talk about people claiming stuff for science and being terrible about it. Like, they didn't have permission from, the family.
Right.
They just were like, we just killed these people. I'm going to steal their heads.
Which just highlights the importance of when you see published research, right? Even today, maybe like the authors of published research today are not quite doing this, but it just highlights the importance of looking into your sources, because you could see something that's published under a quote-unquote reliable source, but it could be published by a guy who also collected 50 human heads from alive people for future study.
Yeah. Now, I want to say, I don't know fully what he did as a naturalist besides, naming all these species, which has been important to science, but I really think it's important to also recognize, the atrocities and lack of ethics that existed in a lot of science, which still persists today. Typically not like that, but, where did a lot of our museum specimens come from?
Right.
And other things like that. But that's a very long story.
And, you mentioned his contributions, but, part of the point of us telling these stories about these people who quote unquote discovered these species is that they didn't. A lot of the time we just give them the credit because under Western systems of science that's what is required or allowed or whatever, but we put these things into context because humanity as a whole species was aware of these things well before these Western men came in and claimed credit for it. He had to eradicate the indigenous people who had that knowledge in order to go in and claim credit for it. So basically, the basis of it is unethical. We're working within the system that exists today, but we're trying to point out how even the foundation of it is not real.
Science is not above ethics, ever. But I really want to talk about lizards.
We do!
Side-Blotched lizard. You might be like, okay, it's found in Utah. Anywhere else? So it's found throughout the U.S. in the states of Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, Utah, Western Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Western Texas. It's also found in Mexico in Baja California, Sonora, Chihuahua. I really should look up these pronunciations ahead of time. Next time. Northeastern Durango and Coahuila. I apologize once again. Next time I'll try and look up pronunciations.
You're doing great, sweetie.
I'm trying. If it's not Latin, I have to apologize. If it's Latin, I just pretend. I've told you a little bit about some basic info about this lizard. It's time to take a look at them.
Ooh.
So I sent you a link to some beautiful iNaturalist photos.
Okay.
You want to try and describe this beautiful, beautiful lizards?
Yes. Oh my gosh. See, this is what I'm saying. When I'm like, I love lizards and I wish I was a lizard. I wish I was just laying in the sun. Most of these pictures, they're just laying in the sun, all nice and toasty warm.
I mean, at that point, you could be a snake, too.
That's true. I do like having legs, though.
Or a legless lizard. Still wild to me that those are not the same thing.
Right. Okay, so this lizard, I would say the word blotched. The name is Side-Blotched lizard. Blotched is very accurate. There are lots of blotches. There seems to be some color variation. There's more of a orange type it looks like, where it's like orange on the side. And then there's one where it looks more gray. I could be making that up, but I do see 2 different pictures with 2 different colors. So vertically on the lizard, like head to tail, there's these stripes. And sometimes, like I said, the stripes on the side are like orangey, but overall it's like a gray brown. Sometimes the side stripes are like light tannish or like a lighter brown. And then all over the lizard, there are blotches, like I said, and the blotches tend to be like lighter or darker, and they tend to follow like the pattern of the vertical stripes. So like the blotches and the orange stripes are like lighter orange and darker orange, and then the blotches and the gray stripes are like darker gray or lighter gray. And then there looks like there's a dark black patch of scales like in the armpit of the lizard, like under the front arms. There's like one where he's like clinging onto a rock real hard. It looks like a really wide rock, so his arms are like really spread and I can like see his pits real good. What else can I say? They don't look like too big. This lizard looks maybe it's so hard to figure out scale on these things.
If you go down, there's a picture of it resting on someone's finger.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I was going to say it was much larger than that. It's the one Alana talked about where it's on the finger. It's not even as long as the person's finger. It's like 3 of the knuckles. I don't know how long that is. Like maybe 3 inches, 4 inches, something like that. And the general shape of it, I described the color, the size, the general shape, very lizard-like. I don't know, man. It's got like
just your typical lizard shape.
Think of a lizard. That's it, baby. You got it. You're right.
All right. Should I give you the descriptions given by a few different sources?
Yes, please. I would like to hear those.
Okay. The Side-Blotched lizard is a small brownish gray lizard ranging from 1.5 to 2.5 inches long. So pretty good estimate there. This is from snout to vent, which I always find is an interesting terminology. But I believe that doesn't include the tail.
Is the vent the cloaca?
I think so. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll check later.
Yeah. I assume that's what it is.
That's what I think, because I think they don't include tails because tails can come off.
There's no other like holes in the lizard. So
it has small, smooth, granular scales on its back and larger scales on the heads and limbs. A gular fold, a long, thin tail, and a dark blue-black mark on the sides of the chest behind the front limbs. So there's your armpit black mark.
Look at that. I passed.
So awesome job there.
Thanks.
Which gives the lizards its name. So it's actually named after the armpit dot.
What? Wow, I feel like a detective.
This mark is sometimes faint or absent. The lizard's overall color is brown, gray, yellowish, or black with dark blotches, spots, and sometimes stripes. I think you hit it pretty well.
Thanks.
There is a double row of dark spots or wedges on the back, edged with white on the rear. The underside is whitish to gray and mostly unmarked. The throat is mottled with dark and light. Males are more colorful than females, having blue speckles on their upper surface, which are most visible during the light phase. Males also have a swollen tail base and enlarged postanals, but no distinct blue coloring on the belly.
Interesting.
Which can be found in many other lizard species, so they're not blue-bellied. I feel like that references something, and I don't know what. The throat is marked with blue, orange, or yellow. Males often have many blue speckles on the tail and posterior of the body. So this was from the Natural Park Service. So I think you hit it pretty well.
Did yours say anything about those long-ass toes?
No.
They have very long toes and fingers.
I think a lot of lizards do. It helps them cling to things. So just a little bit more about them. They only live about a year, but they have multiple clutches each year. So they will lay eggs multiple times. But short-lived babies.
Aww.
Their habitat is steep shrubs and plants with bare ground in between, semi-arid desert, coastal shrub, chaparral, grass, juniper pine, Joshua tree, valley foothill, and elevation between 0 and 8,000 feet. So basically, shrubby, bushy tree things, and then bare ground is very important to them.
Nice.
And they have pretty good elevation range.
Yeah, right? Pretty cool.
Yeah, so when I think of like a lot of the national parks out west, you know, like Joshua Tree Canyonlands and stuff, they could be there. I could have seen one. Their diet, they eat insects and other arthropods, so beyond insects, maybe spiders or something.
So maybe scorpions?
Maybe scorpions.
I don't know. What are arthropods?
My brain is just thinking pillbug. There's a lot of arthropods.
So those are arthropods.
But beyond that, they kind of eat opportunistically. Oh, you're right. Scorpions, spiders, mites, ticks, bugs, and sometimes vegetables for like water. So they don't run around. They just enjoy the sun and wait for their prey to come to them.
They have it figured out, man. They don't even have to like forage. They just wait for it to come to them. That's so smart.
However, they do have a little bit to worry about, as their predators are other lizards and snakes. And as we mentioned before, a lot of times you don't measure the tails because they can be wonky. So they can, like some other lizards, lose their tail to avoid predation. So if, you know, another lizard or a snake chomps on their tail, they can be like, goodbye, and run away.
Nice.
But this actually lowers their social ranking.
Not having a tail?
Yeah. It's like, oh, you don't have a tail. You're not as cool as the tail people.
That's so mean.
But it also is really costly nutrient-wise. So it's probably a way of displaying to others that you are not doing the greatest when it comes to like having nutrients and stuff like that.
Can I ask why? Because can they grow back their tail?
They can.
Really?
They can.
Damn. So you can lose a tail and grow it back all in the span of their year lifespan?
Actually, I'm not sure 100% with these guys. Some lizards can. Research believe the loss of tail results in poorer social status and thus poorer home ranges, increasing predation risk. So you avoid the predation one time, but then you're at higher risk after that.
That's terrible.
Poor guys.
So how is range size determined?
In some cases, we'll get into a little bit more about their territorialness in a bit.
Ooh.
Because it has some fun implications.
I'm excited.
And one more thing I just want to cover before we go into the why is it queer? I want to talk a little bit about conservation. So there's actually some dispute between the like national and state registries of like, should we be worried about these guys or not? The Washington Department of Wildlife lists them as a species of greatest conservation need under their State Wildlife Action Plan, SWAP, which is just a fun acronym. So there's concern for them because, one, we just don't know what their populations and distributions are. It's hard. We need more info. There's also an increasingly greater loss of their shrubland habitat due to agriculture and vegetation change due to livestock, overgrazing invasive species, and changing to the shrub texture. So their habitat is not doing great.
Hi, this is Editing Sage again. I wanted to let you know that the last thing Alana said there was shrub structure. The last thing affecting the side-blotched lizards population is changes to the shrub structure.
So their habitat is not doing great, and if they can't really survive in the newer habitats of agricultural land, it's going to really hurt their populations. So non-native plants, they often grow really dense, so it's harder for these guys to move. That's why they like shrubland with a lot of open area. And currently, when it comes to climate change, they do not seem to be impacted directly, but there's concern with their habitat as things get warmer.
Wildfires and stuff.
Probably. Also, just a lot of plants aren't always set up for the change. There's just a lot of movement in the plant communities, too.
Right.
Their prey eats plants.
However, the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources lists them as least concern because they are considered to have a wide range. Remember, all those states from the US and Mexico. So they're pretty widespread, so they're like, you're fine. But again, the threat's not necessarily directly on them, but their habitat.
Right.
And also, there are a decent number of populations in protected areas. So it's probably like all the national and state parks out there. So it's one of the many species where it's kind of like, we need more information because we just don't know. And I highly recommend people either look these guys up themselves. iNaturalist is a great resource for that, or check out our socials where I'll post them. Some pictures from iNaturalist because they're just very colorful and cute looking.
They are.
All right, Sage, are you ready for why they are queer?
I was born ready.
Let's go.
Hi, and welcome back, everyone. We know it's been a while, but we are back. This is going to be the first in a series of many episodes to come. We plan on releasing these the first Wednesday of every month, so you can keep an eye out for future episodes. If you would like to contribute to the show and help support us, we do this independently. We're two friends who met in grad school. Alana's still in grad school. I've got a job. We do our own things. But if you would like to help support us and keep this show going, you can contribute monetarily via Patreon or Ko-fi, or you can help spread the word on social media. We are at Queerly Natural on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We have the TikTok handle. We're working on developing that account as well. So you can follow us any of those places. Give us a shout out. Spreading the word helps so much. And with that, let's get back to the show. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you many episodes to come.
Are you ready for why they are queer?
I was born ready.
Let's go. So, the interesting thing about this species is it has 5 different morphs. So, morph is normally used to be like, okay, you have blonde hair, you have brown hair, you have red hair. Like, that can be used as a way to describe morphs. It's weird because we don't do that really with humans. But this goes beyond just the different colors of their scales.
Ooh.
To the point that the author of Evolution's Rainbow identifies them as having different genders. So 5 genders.
5? That's so many. Is that the most we've ever covered?
Yeah, we've covered now.
Right, that bird had 4. The mushroom had 28,000.
Oh, yeah.
But
second most. You know?
I think in animals. Yeah.
Each morph not only has a different color, but also has different mating strategies, preferences, and behaviors. There are 3 male morphs and 2 female morphs.
Non-binary lizards. It would be a pentanary.
Pentanary lizards, perfect. I want to be a pentanary lizard. So just real quickly before I go into the details, the morphs are actually related to their throat color. So there's 2 different colored throats for females and 3 different colored throats for males. So the fun thing about the male morph is it's considered to have the rock, paper, scissors game of evolution. It is the evolution of alternative male strategies. So basically here, there are 3, and typically in evolution, we would say, oh, the one that's most fit would beat the others out, right?
Right.
Maybe the yellow is better at camouflage, so the yellow wins, or the females really like blue, so the blue wins. But that's not quite how it works for them. Basically, each morph is better suited to overshadow each one. So it actually alternates about 3 years, at least in one study, where each year it was a different morph that was best suited for reproduction. It's a specific order because of how each one is better than the other.
So it's good for the population as a whole to have some of each.
Yeah, it's keeping that variety.
Right.
This was the first time scientists had ever found a rock, paper, scissors game of genes. So that's really cool. And yes, that is actually like rock, paper, scissors was used as part of the title of the paper that did this.
Such an apt description.
That's great. So basically, the reason they're better than each other is it's frequency dependent and alternating each year to the best one. So when one is high in presence in the population, another one does better the next year.
Oh, so the rarest one does the best?
The most common one does the worst, basically.
Nice.
So how this goes, for those a little bit familiar with genetics, as I said, it's one gene. So the colors are yellow, orange, and blue. Orange is the dominant one, but yellow is dominant over blue, and blue is recessive.
Okay.
Yeah, and scientists were so confused originally, like, why doesn't preference one or the other? But there's different characteristics with each one. So starting with the dominant orange, it is the most aggressive, and it defends large territories, and has the highest testosterone level, but the lowest survivorship. So these guys are the ones who, you know, have those mansions to just have all the girls come by, hang out. They will fight everyone and anyone. Not even for a reason. So yeah, they're kind of like what you picture as like, this is the one that would be doing well. The dark blue is less aggressive and defends smaller territories. So less area, probably less females living in that range.
Okay.
But they're less aggressive, which will be important later. And then the yellow are known as sneaker males. Sneaker males, basically, they don't defend any territory. They actually have the same color throat as the receptive females, though some do turn color later in the season. And so they basically sneak into the territory of the orange and blue males and mate with the females there. This is actually found in a bunch of different species. Yeah, looking like females, how they get around the aggressive males.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I think I remember something similar to this for iguanas too.
One of our previous episodes, I think the three-gendered fish had sneaker males too, right? Where
Yes, I believe so. It was definitely not the midshipman.
You're right. It was probably the parrotfish.
The frequency-dependent selection is the morph with the lowest frequency produces the most offspring, rotating for 3 years. Orange, yellow, blue, repeated.
Wow.
And this is probably in part because it's linked to these mating strategies. So orange is dominant, very aggressive. It can actually maybe even hurt females occasionally. They're spending a lot of time and energy protecting their area. Yellow males then can come in and sneak into those areas, especially if they're so large. It's probably easier and mate more. But then when yellow's around, they can't do a lot because they don't have their own territory. But they're all going to be going into the orange, allowing the blue to become the most abundant the next year.
So you're saying when orange is the most abundant, yellow sneaks in because it's good at sneaking into the big territories. So then yellow's the most abundant. And then, wait, why does blue?
The yellow doesn't claim territory.
Right.
So that allows the blue to have the orange is going to be dealing with the yellows coming in and mating instead. The blue is just chilling with its small territory. So it's able to produce more for that year because it's not competing probably as much as the orange and yellow are.
Oh, right. And the blue would be, since it's the least frequent is the most successful, the blue would be the least frequent in the yellow year, right? So then...
Yeah, it's the one with the least frequency does the best the next year. So it's the least frequent in the yellow year.
That's so interesting. And it's not coordinated or anything because, like you said, they only have a lifespan of a year. So this isn't like lizards, like remembering the last year's mating season. It's like...
just who hatches the next year.
Yeah, population dynamics. That's so interesting.
So a little fact here for you. The males to display to females for mating, they bob their head and do push-ups, which I've actually seen lizards do push-ups before. It's hilarious. So literally they're like, look how strong I am. Come see me. I am the best.
That's so silly.
Yeah, that's great.
It really gets us, I see why they
well, for some people. So those are the males. Our rock, paper, shoot. Lowest frequency does the best the following year. The females have two morphs. Yellow, remember the yellow sneaker males disguise themselves kind of as females. So, and then the orange. The interesting thing here is the yellow actually invests in quality. So they have fewer but larger hatchlings. Less eggs but more provisioned nutrients. The orange invest in quantity. They have large clutches but smaller offspring, less nutrients. And there actually is a preference for first clutch versus second clutch. So the orange females will often prefer orange for the first. They're attracted to the orange more. But again, orange is aggressive. And so oftentimes in the second clutch, they actually prefer the yellows because it's costly to mate with an aggressive male that might actually inflict wounds accidentally during the mating process. So it's easier to deal with the yellow sneakers instead.
Right. So you said that's the preference of orange females or any female mated to an orange male?
This is the preference of orange females. Yeah. So females, their color actually controls their male preference. So first clutch tends to be based on genetics, but the second clutch is not.
Right.
It's more dependent on the condition of the female.
Based on experience.
So if the female's not doing so hot, they gotta want to mate with the less aggressive. If they're doing great, they might mate with the orange again.
Okay.
So female mate choice, or success is related to fitness.
It's also density dependent, however, because the larger yellow offspring do better when there's a high density. They're going to survive better when there's less food because they have, bigger size than the little ones. But when lower density is around, the orange, smaller offspring are favored. So, you have a big guy, plenty of food though, and you have a lot of little guys. They're going to do better. So it's just like the males, but they're only two, so they're flip-flopping.
So we talked about orange female preferences. Do the yellow females have a preference?
I think they do. I didn't write it down. My guess is probably blue or yellow.
That would make sense.
Because
those blue guys need someone to like them.
Because it is noted that the orange female loses more weight after their first clutch than the yellow female. And that is, again, believed because the male can be aggressive, biting, and causing injury. But, yeah. So I was really excited to share these guys. Also, 5 morphs that are not just color related, but their behavior is very different.
It's just fascinating.
I know, it's so cool.
Yeah, and I think it's very relevant, given the attacks on trans and non-binary people, to bring up the fact that there are lots of multi-gendered animals.
And this one even has a male that might be able to change color and behavior throughout the season.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I believe the yellow can sometimes switch to blue.
Wow.
Partway through the season.
So there you go. Even within their own lifetime, that's a trans lizard, baby. The existence of 5 different genders, like you said, past episodes we've stated that our working definition of gender that we're using includes differences in lifestyle, appearance, and behavior, life history, and this very much fits that.
Yeah, we're more than just how we look.
Right. And like we've said previously, we can't ask these lizards what they think about gender. I wonder what they would say. They don't think about it. They don't have to think about it, but they just exist that way. And wouldn't it be so nice and simple if we did the same thing? If we just let people live their lives the way they wanted, or the way that they were impelled by their inherent nature. Either way, just let people live their lives, man. It's not that hard. These lizards are doing great with 5 genders that we can identify, and we are bad at identifying animal genders. So it's obvious.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that.
So I think that's where we wrap up for this time. Thanks for listening.
Love these lizards. Yeah, thank you so much, Alana.
Got great colorful lizards. And love who you are, be who you will, and remember, you're queerly natural. Bye!
Queerly Natural was created by Ilana Zeitzer, Sage Roden, and Elizabeth Furman, with music by Migfist20. Visual design for the show is done by Ilana Zeitzer. Editing and production is done by Sage Roden and Matthew Walsh. To get updates about the podcast, follow us at Queerly Natural on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also upload all of our sources and episode transcripts to our website, queerlynatural.com. If you liked what you heard today and would like to support the show, contributions can be made on Patreon or Ko-fi, or you can spread the word and tell your friends. Thank you so much for listening, and join us every first Wednesday of the month for a new episode. Until next time, stay queer and remember clearly, it's natural.